A 5 to 1, I think I just have to take a chance.
Okay, we are back for the latest episode of The Jump Show, and I'm glad to be back myself in the hot seat alongside Dan Overall and Jake Price. I've sort of been intermittently doing this for the last few weeks, but hopefully now I can get a clear run at things and be here on the regular. Kempton Park, depending. Wednesday nights can be quite difficult getting scheduling, but fingers crossed we can keep it going for now. Thanks for your continued support on this channel. It really does help us out. 200 likes this week on the video would be fantastic for us, and keep on clicking that subscribe button. It is going up pretty steadily now, so we'd love to keep on that right trajectory on the way forward to perhaps 4,000 subscribers, maybe by the time the Cheltenham Festival comes around. We can dream, of course. Jake and Dan, as mentioned, alongside. Jake, come to you first of all. This weekend, we're going to be previewing all the big racing from Ascot, from Wetherby, and from Down Royal as well. It's a proper weekend. I would almost argue the first weekend where we've got sort of three big tracks all coming to the table.
Yeah, this is the first of the next 6 to 8 weeks, isn't it? Where we have real good racing every weekend, plenty of meetings, and as I said, it's the lead up to Boxing Day. I just love this time of year because there's such good racing that you don't even need to think about, Ante-Post bets for Cheltenham or anything just yet. Just have them in the back of your mind, but enjoy the racing we've got for now.
Yeah, and some familiar names, Dan, as we usually get with the jumps, which is why everyone loves the jumps, isn't it? Because this time of year we get to know and see our old friends and their old familiars, and there's plenty of those out this weekend too.
Yeah, your 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds coming back for another shot at maybe what might be their last attempt at a big prize. We'll talk about plenty of those in the races to come. But it'd be a nice, obviously, Cheltenham was great fun last weekend, but when you've got multiple meetings like this, it's one of those weekends when we just quite look forward to just lying on the sofa for 5 or 6 hours and actually being able to watch it and take it all in. So, yeah, should be an informative weekend.
I've got a few friends heading to the pub on Saturday, I think around 12 o'clock. To watch the racing in the afternoon, or the jumps racing, and I think they're intending on sticking around for the Breeders' Cup, which
that's a good stint.
It's half midnight it finishes. It's going to be a proper stint,
and then straight to Infernos.
Do you in there, Dan? Let's start, shall we, on what we've seen recently and recent notable performances. Jake, come to you first. Who's caught your eye? Who's in the notebook over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I absolutely love maiden hurdles this time of year. Voss last the other day, we were treated to 2 divisions of a really nice maiden hurdle. And in the second division, I think it probably looked a bit stronger. Starzand was the favourite there, and he went on to win quite nicely on his hurdles debut. But the horse that really caught my eye was the horse in third, G-Horse Flyer for Ollie Murphy. Now, he was off the bridle for a long way down the straight. Never really raced that professionally, I'd say. I think he was very much learning on the job. But he was a point-to-point recruit. He won his point very well. And he'd actually been pleasing them very much at home. His jumping had been really good. He showed that there. He hung a little bit. He stayed on well towards the finish, and he ended up finishing third, only beaten 4 lengths. I think that when he grows up and matures a little bit, I think he's going to be a really nice horse. Obviously going to be a chaser in the making down the line, but I think there's still work to be done over hurdles with him first, especially when, as I said, when he matures. I'd also give a shout out as well to Dig Deep in second. He's another point-to-point recruit who ran really well the first time up for Ben Pauling. I think Ben Pauling is a yard that you can kind of take fitness on trust at the moment. They seem to all be running well first time up. So yeah, those two behind Starzand who could be a potential star of the future.
Okay, good stuff, Jake. There seem to be a lot of yards actually who've hit the ground running this season. Plenty coming to the start in really good form, which I suppose suggests maybe for those who aren't quite in his hot form, like for example Paul Nicholls, then you might be thinking that maybe later in the season is the time to catch him when everyone else has sort of had their form, I suppose. Good stuff, Jake. Dan, what about you?
We'll go back to Cheltenham. It was the opening race of the Saturday Novice Handicap Chase. It doesn't always tend to be the best renewal of a race like that at the Cheltenham kind of calendar, but I think this year we had a few interesting chase debuts, notably. Double Powerful, probably the first one to mention, who finished third. He's a proper hold-up horse, so he's going to be difficult to place in certain races, but he kind of warmed to his jumping late on, stuck to his task quite nicely to finish third, went never really in with a winning shout. Quite a notable drifter late on as well, but he'll be interesting moving forward. Maybe a more galloping track, something like a Newbury, maybe down the line, which I think will suit that style a bit more. That was over 2.5. He also stays free. He'll have plenty of options moving forward. And then the old one, my old favourite, Blenkinsop, also made his chase debut in that race, finishing fifth. And he was outpaced out the back for a long time. Obviously, Henry Daly wouldn't be known for hitting the ground running this time of year. So the fact he was able to stay on quite strongly into fifth, I thought there's a lot of encouragement to be taken from that. And he's been generously dropped £2. So he's now down to a mark 120. Like when he was at his pomp a couple of seasons ago, he was right at 131. So he has dropped notably in the handicap. This was a perfectly adequate chase debut. This is also, I think, has always wanted 3 miles, despite winning over 2.5, basically exclusively. So as the Henry Daly team start to get running, which tends to be during the sort of early winter months proper, he'll be one that I'd be hopeful can pick up some sort of handicap chase through the season.
Yeah, on Double Powerful, he's a horse that I just have started to love really because he always tries so hard and he's got plenty of talent as well. And I think there will be a fair few races again, like there were last season, to be won with him. I agree with you there, Dan. I'm going to go with Bad, who's become really rather good actually in the last couple of seasons and has sort of ironed out his quirks and his kinks, and he's really getting to know the game now. And I thought he was so impressive at Kempton 2 weeks ago. And the great thing about that performance was not only was it on the back of the break, and Jake, you just said that Ben Pauling fitness isn't really a worry with his horse at the moment, and he's a case in example, case in point, I should say. But the blinkers were removed, and before he sort of needed the headgear to really wake him up and keep him concentrated, but he didn't need that this time. He seemed to be really straightforward, and the way he jumped was just a joy to behold. Kempton's a great track for him to showcase his jumping ability, but it's not an easy track to negotiate by any stretch of the imagination. And he made them look silly in behind with the way that he jumped. So I think he's got plenty more upside. They've always really liked him, haven't they? I mean, we heard it from his juvenile days that how much they held him in high regard, and he's just never really managed to click. But there has been ability in there. Remember, he's only 6, so he could be seeing a proper chaser, I think, this season in the making. He won that for 138 very easily. He's now up to 144. I think that could have been a harsher rise, to be honest. It was only £6. But yeah, I mean, the way he jumps now with the headgear off, it's a very encouraging sign for what he might be able to do for the rest of the season, bearing in mind that was a seasonal return. I wouldn't be surprised to see him mid 150s, potentially nudging 160 at the end of the season, potentially, if he continues in the way that I think he's going to. So, yeah,
nudging 160.
Yeah, that's a big rise. 22.
That's bold.
Start of the season. That is quite bold. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him mid 150s. Good stuff, guys. That is recent notable performance. On to the actual action this weekend. Going to go to Wetherby first and start with a West Yorkshire Hurdle. It's the 222, and it's a small field this year, as it usually is, to be honest. But it's still got plenty of interest in it. And Dan, we'll come to you first. What do you think of the makeup of the race?
It's fascinating. I think it's really interesting. There's no real pace in the race, which is going to be interesting from a tactical perspective. I mean, the closest you'd probably have is Potter's Charm. He tended to race sort of handily, but he steps up to 3 miles for the first time. So will they want to adopt those kind of positive tactics here would be a question. That might inconvenience Strong Leader if it becomes a relative test of speed at the trip, because I think undoubtedly he's got the best out-and-out 3-mile form. But he is a bit of a slow galloping type who I don't think necessarily would appreciate the sort of turn for home at Wetherby that can be a bit of a sprint that it might develop into. So that would be interesting. I think also he's got Newbury will be obviously a big target for him as well. So how absolutely A1 he is for this, I'm not so sure. Other current prices, I know we've talked about a lot already this season, but at 5-1, I think I just have to take a chance. We've taken no chances. I just think if she won the 2-mile listed race at this meeting last year, she's generally been campaigned over 2.5 miles. Obviously, continued to improve all of last season. Placed in the Mares' Hurdle, third at Aintree again behind Lossiemouth. But you kind of can easily forget that actually when she was really improving through the spring of a couple of years ago, all her form was at 3 miles. And then she dropped back in trip last season, just happened to make hay, and winning over 2 miles was almost unexpected, I would say. So she had perfectly fine in that silver trophy like we discussed. And her prep is almost identical to this race like Proshima's was a few years ago. A race of this nature that became a relative test of speed on decent ground, ran in the silver trophy off a big weight, and then won impressively here. And I think with the Skeltons now, I think obviously in the past we've kind of looked, okay, we're maybe planning for Aintree handicap or a Cheltenham handicap. I think with the amount of horses they have now and their intent on winning the trainers' title, there are going to be opportunities like this that they almost have to take early in the season for pots that are just too big to turn down. Like there isn't almost time to not be really trying for it. It looks a fair opportunity. The fact that she has gears for shorter, I think, will suit in a race that is probably likely to turn into a relative test of speed. I just think the price is wrong at 5 to 1 compared to Strong Leader, who is the best 3 mile horse in the race, but with conditions to suit. But how ready is he, and will he like the test of speed? And Paula's Charm, who 3 miles is a bit of an unknown, having his first start of the season. So at 5 to 1, not a race I tend to get involved in because it's trappy, but I think that price is there to compensate.
Okay. I'm actually going to throw in one I think's got a chance as well. That's Winter Fog. Wouldn't discount him for Willie Mullins. I know he's 11 now, but he's come into this off the back of a win on the flat Tremor. Then he didn't run so well in Cesarewitch last time, but I mean that can be forgiven. It's a very tough race, that one. And on the form of his best form last season, finishing fourth at Teupu at Punchestown, third behind Golden Ace, obviously in slightly mitigating circumstances, he'd be bang there in this. And the great thing about him is he's got race fitness on his side, so I wouldn't be discounting him by any stretch of the imagination either. He's around about 8 to 1, 15 to 2. Jake, what do you think about the race?
Yeah, it's not a race that I'm going to be rushing to get involved with. I think that Strong Leader has a lot in his favour. Obviously, his record fresh reads 2-1-0-1. That zero was in the Welsh Champion Hurdle where he was sent off 3 to 1 favourite and, probably found things going a bit too quick, as Dan kind of mentioned there about him being a 3 miler out and out. Last season, obviously, he won the long distance hurdle first time up at Newbury. Ollie Murphy has always said that his ideal conditions are flat tracks, left-handed, good ground. So gets all three here. I think that there's a lot in his favour. As Dan's mentioned, whether or not he'll be fully revved up to go first time, I think is probably a question mark. Newbury will probably be the big day this side of the this side of Christmas. I think what was interesting though is that they did say that they're probably going to go to Leopardstown with him and campaign a little bit differently. So you're going to go to Leopardstown over Christmas rather than the long walk at Ascot, where he always ends up disappointing because it's right-handed. Again, that emphasis on going left-handed definitely being key. But yeah, I'm not telling you much you don't know here. I think he's got very, very strong claims, but it's not a race that I'm going to be rushing to take the price for.
Yeah, it's a good summary really of that hurdle. That's the kind of featurette on the card. The feature, of course, is the Charlie Hall chase, and I'll read out the runners because there's 6 of them: Protectorat, Hewick, Pic Dorhy, Jello, the Real Wacker, and Garlaw. Jake, coming straight back to you, looking at this race from a tactical point of view, it does look as though there's going to be plenty of pace on. The Real Wacker likes to go forward. Pic Dorhy almost has to lead. We saw Hewick on his return making all over hurdles. Protectorat has led in the past. So there is a lot of speed up front, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. That would be an interesting angle. I'd imagine the likes of Hewitt would be happy just to sit off at that early pace if it is on. But yeah, he's the one that I thought was the one to go with here, to be honest, because you only have to go back 12 months ago and he was running an absolute stormer going down on his shield to Envoy Allen in the Grade 1 champion chase at Down Royal. Obviously, that was a really, really good effort. Lost nothing into defeat to a horse who absolutely loves Down Royal and obviously is favourite to go 3 times later on in the card. So yeah, no, I thought that Hewitt was the one. They obviously messed around with a bit afterwards. After that Grade 1 second, they had the Grand National on the agenda. So he ran a bit here, there, and everywhere. Ran over hurdles, ran some Grade 1 chases, just to keep him going, keep his mark down for the Grand National. He ran a perfectly good race. Obviously, he was fancied by many for that. Finishing 8th place off a rating of 162. I don't think that's bad in a handicap. But as you mentioned, he returned to Turles earlier this month and had a lovely pipe opening win there with this in mind. So race fitness is on side. That's a big tick. Good ground. That's a big tick. The fact he doesn't carry a penalty is another big tick. He was actually entered in this race last season, but went for the Grade 1 at Down Royal, probably because he would have had to carry a penalty in the Grade 2 rather than the fact of just having a go at the Grade 1 without the penalty. So, yeah, I thought that he would be the one to be with, gets all his conditions, is race fit, and he also gets £6 from the Real Wacker, which I think is going to really help him because obviously the Real Wacker does also have race fitness on side. But I think getting that £6 is going to be very much in Hewitt's favour.
Hewick for Jake then, and yeah, and he cost 800 quid, that horse, in case you didn't know.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not been said, has it, at all? Dan, are you going to be wading in with your old pal Jello?
I think we're still waiting for the Venetian to really hit fire, aren't we? He's a horse I have a lot of time for. I'm not sure this will be his day. He'll have more through the season, and he is obviously the likeliest raced one of these, especially at 3 miles. Only had one try at it in a very funny race when he won the Denman. So it'll be interesting to see how his season develops, but I don't think this will be his day. But it is a fascinating renewal. I think it's definitely stronger than last year's. Obviously, the one that Real Wacker won, but he has to carry that penalty. He'll also have Pic Dory almost certainly eyeballing him for the pace, as you mentioned, Bully. And I think when we all thought about Pic Dory stepping up to 3 miles, it was a very short price. Kempton would be the venue it would be at. And yet here he is turning up in the Charlie Hall. So interesting race planning for the 10-year-old. Obviously also has the penalty. I'd be with Protectorat. And again, it's somewhat in the same vein with Take No Chances, and I think they can't afford not to let these races go uncontested. Now, you look at his record fresh in the last couple of years, and I've seen this spoken about a lot. Oh, he needs a run, he needs a run. Well, he needs a run when they need him to have a run. I think you know what I mean. Like, because he won the Betfair Chase 3 years ago doing handstands fresh when he was ready for that race. And you look at what they've been saying about him, this has been a target. So this is not a prep for anything. He's a 10-year-old who needs 3 miles again. Probably not absolute top grade one class. There are limited opportunities. This is the one. So I don't think freshness is really going to be a concern for him whatsoever. I think the ground potentially, but there is a bit more rain due. I imagine it's going to get on the soft side of good. It already is, according to their recent morning update, with about 7 mils due today and in the morning of the racing. So that depends on how much rain falls. It's really just to skew it to either Hewitt or Protectorat, realistically speaking. Obviously, the less the better for Hewitt, the more the better for Protectorat. But ultimately, I still think he's the classiest horse in the race. Obviously, his season last year was a bit sort of in and out, dueling with Jello over 2.5 miles, then chasing home John Bon. I think that race at Aintree definitely showed he was ready for 3 miles. But I think if you actually overlook at the overall class he's shown at this trip, winning the Betfair, third in the Gold Cup, would have finished closer, bar an error. I think that's still somewhat relatively stand out in a race like this, and I think they'll have him ready for it, whereas that's always been a question in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting race this year. Actually, you can
It is.
you can give a chance to pretty much every run of the race. I mean, Garlaw might be up against it a bit, but even at his best, he could get there or thereabouts. Yeah, I'm still in the Hewitt camp marginally, tentatively, but it wouldn't be by any great stretch. And I think if the ground stays as it is, then he'd have a massive chance. I thought he looked such a happy horse at Thurles last time. I know, I know it was a weak race, but he just loved every minute of it, and it was a really nice race to watch.
I'm happy the horse is happy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on to Ascot, and they've got three races we're going to cover. First up, the 205, which is the 2 mile, 1 furlong Premier Handicap Chase. And as you'd expect for a 100 grand prize, good field. Lodu Sud, 155 rated, is in there at the top of the market. Martator, Boot Hill, General Madrano, Sombruy, Issar Deri, Petit Tonnerre, Special Cadeau, Shake Your Tail for the Teddy Blue Western General, Authorised Art, and Gabriel's Getaway. So a fine field assembled for this, Dan, and one, yeah, you'd hope and expect for in a race of this nature.
Yeah, these Ascot handicaps are a tried and tested condition, often go to track specialists like Martator, obviously having won it last year, loves this place. So he'll obviously be respected, and we're starting to see these Venetia Williams horses come out. Ground currently good to firm in places. There is a fair bit of rain due. I think it's around sort of 11 to 13 mil they're expecting between now and racing. So that firm will go. How slow it's going to get, though, that would be a question. I imagine it's not going to get too soft. So that would pose a question to the likes of a Loda Sud, and definitely a Sam Brouet, for example. I like General Madrano. I think the quicker ground is going to be definitely in his favour, and this generally is his kind of year, his time of year. Like you look at his record, I think in October and November, I think it reads 1-1-2-2-1, like ultra progressive last season, and had excuses thereafter, where probably a bit inconvenienced that the likes of Doncaster, where he got to the front way too soon for Petit Tonnerre to capitalise, and he's now £13 better off with him. Down a few pounds for some runs in the spring where he's probably over the top. But this is his time of year. Emma Lavelle in terrific form, as we know, around 10 to 1. I still think there's some mileage in that mark of 140. But it's always a very trappy little race, this. But he was the one around 10 to 1 I thought had a fair bit of upside left for a yard who can seemingly do no wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the Yard have really started off the campaign very well indeed. Before I get to you, Jake, I'm just going to put forward my thoughts. I mean, they're not particularly strong, but at the same time, I do think if Martato is ready to do himself justice as he was in the race last year, he won at the Charlie Deutsch last year. Ned Fox rides this time, but when he bolted up in the end of this month, again at Ascot last year, Ned Fox is riding. That was off 140. He's now off 141. He won that day by 11 lengths. So, I mean, clearly is well handicapped. Maybe this is the time to catch him beginning of the season at Ascot over this course and distance. And if there isn't too much rain, I know, Dan, you think there might be a little bit, 10 to 13 mils might well change it. It should still be on the quickish side, I think, come the day. Then I think he's very solid indeed. Provided what he did at the end of last season doesn't remain, because he was beaten a long way in all four of his last starts. But I think he's pretty solid. Jake, what do you reckon?
Yeah, that's the thing with him, isn't it? He's not run a good race since winning the November version of this last year. So you'd want to see him bounce back. First time up for Venetia, going to be pretty quick round. I think I can probably just about leave him, although he's obviously on a really dangerous mark, especially with Ned's claim on board on top of as well. So yeah, you could definitely see him running really well. Do wonder if the November race might be the plan, is get him fully ready for that. Yeah, no, this is a really good race, as you mentioned. General Medrano is definitely on the list. I think he's got his conditions here. Emma Lavelle's obviously absolutely flying along at the moment. But the one that I was really interested in as well is Special Cadu for Henry de Bromhead. Now, first things first, he obviously sent Jasco de Dance to the Cheltenham Handicap 2 mile on Friday, and he ended up finishing second when sent off the 9 to 4 favourite. And I just think this horse is a much better horse. Obviously, this is a better race, I'll concede that, but I thought that his second behind Westport Cove in the Grade 3 the other day was very good. Westport Cove is rated 144 in Ireland. He's been quite progressive over the summer. He's definitely improved on his efforts last season, where Special Caddo actually beat him in a beginner's chase. But that horse, when Willie was trying to go for the Trainers' Championship at the end of last season, ran at Plumpton against Sainsbury, and he was not beaten very far when trying to give £8 to Sainsbury. Now Special Caddo only has to give £3 here to Sainsbury, and obviously he beat a better, what I think is a better version of Westport, was second, sorry, to what I thought was a better version of Westport Cove. So I think the form lines are there to say that he can go very close. And something else very interesting is Mike O'Connor can claim £3 in Britain. If this race was run in Ireland, he can't, because the thresholds are a little bit different for conditional riders as to when they lose their claim. So he gets the clear of £3. He's rated 142. He's going to absolutely love the ground because obviously he's been running through the summer. So I think there's a lot in Special Cadu's favour, and obviously Henry de Bromhead does really well with his Raiders at this time of year. So yeah, I think between him and General Medrano, you can get two real good each way plays there.
Yeah, decent price as well for Special Cadar. I think he's around about 14 to 1, isn't he? So yeah, nice each way play there from Jake. Okay, moving on to the 310. It's the Lavazza Handicap Hurdle Class 2, 3-year-olds and above. Again, really competitive. I won't go through all the runners. It's quite a big field, but Alexi and Washington head the market from Move It Like Mini, Dance and Glance, Ooh Betty, Farsol and Affadil. Jake, straight back to you here. Who do you like in this? It's a proper renewal, isn't it? And I like the fact that we got at the head of the market two horses who ran blinders last time.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let Dan make the case for Alexi because I don't want us to both be telling you the same thing. But the other horse I thought was very interested in here is Dancing Glance. Now, I went to Newton Abbot a couple of weeks ago where he ran, and he was absolutely smashed off the boards. He went off 15 to 8 favourite, travelled really smoothly through the race, but just hit the second last. Manuelito was out in front that day, was kind of just making all, and he escaped on the front end and went on to win quite nicely. He's rated 130. I think he looks quite progressive himself. But Dancing Glance lost nothing in defeat, finishing second there. Went up a pound to a mark of 117. He was fifth in the Swinton at the end of last season as well. I think he's the type of progressive horse that will start to win, sort of races like this for Anthony Honeyball. Anthony Honeyball obviously loves to have runners at Ascot. He's had the prep run for fitness, which is going to be massive for him here. And he also won the race in 2020 with Kid Commando as well. It's actually, if you look back through the race, 6 of the last 10 have also won this race having had a run. Now, obviously, that doesn't rule out a lot of horses in this field because most of them have had a run recently, but that is something to bear in mind, that having the run does seem to be a massive positive in this race. So yeah, Alexi and Dancing Glance, I'll play the pair.
Okay, nice. Interested to get Dan's thoughts on Alexi now, and also Washington, Dan, because I think he's got a very good chance, Washington. I feel like this is the time of year in which he thrives. I mean, that's judged on last year when he won on his return, and when bolted up at Fairyhouse in the listed handicap hurdle, that was obviously 121. He's now 132, but he won easily last time of 128. He's now £4 higher. I just wonder if this is the time of year that's best for Washington. But I know that you quite like Alexi.
Well, yeah, I'm watching a movie like Mini. Obviously, they're both towards the head of the market. Obviously, they would come from the sort of veterans handicap hurdle, if there is such a thing, at Chepstow. But I mean, I struggled to have them the same price when Alexi ran in the Welsh Champion hurdle. Like, I mean, you'd have very little doubt what form line should be stronger, Celtic Dino versus Washington and Move It Like Mini. I mean, is there really any immediate comparison between the two? Obviously, we spoke about Alexi going into that race. We were very much Team Celtic Dino, but Alexi was the interesting one as the alternative angle. And my concern with him that day was he really appreciate a track like Chepstow, sort of undulating, very undulating, left-handed, galloping, where his form was around the likes of Taunton, sharp and right-handed. And he ran a blinder under the circumstances, particularly when the yards generally have been needing their first run. Now, I don't doubt they would have had that race in mind for him as a starting point, but I also don't think he would have been A1 for it. I think he'll definitely step forward for that run. And it was very generous handicapping. I thought to not raise him a pound for it. Celtic Dino only getting 4 surprised me. Alexi getting nothing really surprised me because he would have been bang there. He wouldn't have been far away had he not sort of made an error at both the second last and the last. I thought it was a massive run under the circumstances. Still lurks on that mark 127. Like, surely he's got a handicap in him off that mark. And this, to me, in terms of quality, in terms of real substance and depth, although it has more runners, probably lacks a quality factor like lurks a Celtic Dino and Willful in third also brought to the table. So around the 5-1 mark for Alexi, I thought that was very fair for a race which, while has depth, probably lacks the out and out class that he ran in last time.
Yeah, interesting about the form lines there and the sort of unparalleled form lines with one classier race than the other with the two at the top of the market. I think that's a really interesting point, actually, Dan. Okay, that is the big handicap hurdle. Onto the big handicap chase, or at least another one of them, is the Sodexo Live Gold Cup over 3 miles. And yeah, top field on show here. The Changing Man, Neon Moon, Henry's Friend, Marble Sands, Lecoq Hardy, etc., etc. Interesting to note that Snipe's down there as well, but I don't think he's going to be winning this.
You've got Marble Sands and Snipe Bully.
I know.
Your head must be fried.
Well, do
It's
you
a
know what?
real disaster for you.
It's slightly fried, but I mean, I have completely given up on Snipe.
Thank God.
So unfortunately, I am going with my other horse, the Marble Sands, who actually I think has got a belting chance, to be perfectly honest in this. Really strong on his claims. If you look at his Colin Parker victory last year, it was off the back of a break. He comes here off the back of a break, over jumps that is at least, and he won that off 146. He's now off 142. Clearly is well treated on that mark, and he returned on the flat last time with a mighty run at Goodwood, finishing second, beating a neck, and that was a really strong performance, showing that he's in really good heart, and given how well treated he is, and stepping up to 3 miles again, I think he's a big player in this race. I really like his chance in this. Well, I think there's a few in here who've got a couple of questions to answer, whereas I think he's pretty solid. Back to you, Dan. What do you fancy here?
Oh, is it the Changing Man's time this time? Is it going to be his day, everyone? Surely it's coming sooner rather than later. I mean, this is, again, another absolute no excuses if he can't win it kind of territory, isn't it, for him? Like, he should have every chance, but he'll find one to beat him. That's what he'll do. I like Blow Your Wad as a prospect at 3 miles. He is clearly unexposed at the trip. He's never tried it. As a young horse, he was very headstrong and keen going, which has always limited, I think, the ability to step him up in trip. I think he's always been a 3 miler, masquerading as a 2.5 miler because of his headstrong nature. But last year, a bit of a write-off for him, as it was with so many of Tom Lacey's horses, but he still ended up running a nice race at the April meeting to finish 5th. He just simply has to go right-handed at tracks like this. All his best form is under these kind of conditions. Like, you go back through that record over fences right-handed. He was second to Le Patron, giving him 12 pounds at Sandown, were allowed to kind of do his own thing out in front on Chase debut. He then won twice at Kempton, including over Christmas and the competitive novice handicap there, and then was 5th in February when the yard were really struggling. They're always, I think, shaped like a 3-miler in waiting. And the visor goes on for the first time, which is interesting. He won in cheap pieces for the first time last year, or a couple of seasons ago, and Tom Lacey's record with first-time visors in the last 12 months, 7 runners, 2 wins, and 3 have placed as well. So, of course, he has stamina to prove, but the yard of flying, he's 14-1, and you look through the kind of list there, I mean, most of these are fairly exposed to some degree at 3 miles, or have shown their hand somewhat. He has not shown anything, so he could still have a fair bit in hand now he steps up to 3 miles for a yard of flying.
Good stuff. Yeah, really interesting thoughts actually about that horse. And I remember Blow Your Wad when he was in his younger days. He looked so quirky, didn't he? I think it was at Wincanton when he pretty much ran off the track in a hurdle race. Yeah, he just looked like one of those nutcases. But he's got plenty.
It was a bumper. It was a bumper when he lost to Tamuras.
That's right. Yeah.
He
Good
basically
race,
went into the
actually,
hedge.
in hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he finished fourth in the entry bumper, despite still being a complete head case. Like he's always been very, very talented. He's just obviously taken a bit of time. But I mean, his novice chase campaign was solid when he got his conditions. Like going right-handed on flattish tracks, he was very good. So he's still he's only 7.
Yeah.
He's still very, very like, unexposed.
Yeah. Wouldn't put you off at all. Good stuff, Dan. What about you, Jake? The changing man for you or something else?
The thing with the changing man is obviously one that he dodges a lot of races, but two, I think the fitness concern would be my only one thing that he has an excuse for if he doesn't win. Obviously, Jotas have all been seeming to need their first run. Obviously, that's not going to be a problem with Alexi, who, as we've mentioned, has already had that run and ran really well first time up. But a lot of the others have needed that first run, so that would be my one concern with him. Other than that, he would look to have everything in his favour off this mark, and with the field that's been declared as well. Like I thought, it's a very tricky and open race, so I can definitely see the cases for Marble Sands. I can definitely see the case for Blow Your Wad if he stays the trip. I thought the other one who was quite interesting is Lecoq Hardy for Hemorrhage Bromhead. If he can actually prove that he fully stays, I know obviously he ran in the Kerry National the last day. Like that form is working out unbelievably. Free Card Bragg obviously won last weekend. The weekend before that, French Dynamite won the big race at Limerick as well. So that form is working out well. He kind of weakened after the last that day. Was do your slight concern? Does he truly stay 3 miles? That was his first ever attempt at 3 miles, other than his point to point. So that would be the question mark. But other than that, he's obviously got Mike O'Connor taking off the £3. 141 doesn't look beyond him, and the form has worked out well. So he'd be very interesting. But yeah, it's not a race that I'm enamored by, to be honest. I was hoping I'd love to get stuck into this race, but there wasn't anything leaping off the page this time.
It's a good point you make. I don't know. It's not as, I wouldn't say it's as classy, perhaps, a renewal that it has been in the past. I mean,
No.
you got the changing man who could easily be the class horse in the race. But apart from him, you're rather looking clutching at straws in a way, aren't you? Really?
Well, it was a bit. Yeah, he had a similar makeup last year, but we had Chianti Classico in the race. So
Mm.
obviously, was the
Yeah.
class angle and who just ended up winning it pretty handily. I think it can be a bit of an early season handicappers race for handicappers, but there's maybe one or two sprinkled in with something a bit more. But yeah, it's a open race. It's competitive. You can't complain about that.
Talking of a race for handicappers, onto the Grade One at Down Royal. No, I'm only joking. Um, actually, I think the Champion Chase got a great field this year, to be fair. You got Envoy Allen, top of the market, who of course won it last year. Spillans Tower, Founder 50, stepping up to 3 miles. Western Fold, Affidel Fury, Stella Story, and Flash Collage. So a real who's who of Irish names. Jake, I'm going to come to you with a question here. We've got Western Fold in fourth in the market here. The way that he's been going, the upward trajectory that he's on, the fact that he won so easily in Grade 2 company last time, having won the Galway Plate, I just feel like he's a little bit overlooked in the market. He perhaps should be short than 13-2. What do you think?
I think he will be as long as they get the lower end of the rain that they're expecting over the next couple of days. I think that's the massive off-putting thing with him at the moment, and vice versa with Spillans Tower is the rain is very much going to depend on potentially if they even run, let alone run well. Western Fold you could easily see coming out if the ground went soft. Spillans Tower you could easily see coming out if we don't get the rain. So the rain is very much going to be key to this race, I think. Envoy Allen, obviously, we've got to mention him going for this for a third time. What a horse he's been, but he's 11. Is he going to be as good as he has been in the past? Obviously, he loves Down Royal, but that would be the question with him. The horse that I thought that just almost has to be the play for me is Founder 50. If he stays the trip, he's already rated the highest in the field with a rating of 165. If he stays the trip, I just think he's got such a good chance here. Obviously, he ran on a point to point and finished second, so that's his only ever try at a three. Sorry, he won his point to point over 3 miles, so that was his only ever try over 3 miles in his career so far. But since then, he's been kept exclusively to 2 miles and 2.5 miles. So you know he's got a bit of boot, which I actually quite like. If you know, assuming he stays, if it turns into a bit of Tessa's speed, he'll be the one for sure. Um, but yeah, I thought he bookended his last season with 2 wins over 2.5 miles. He kind of ground out the Grade 2 chase on this card last year. Um, you know, he should have won the race. Obviously, he was massively odds on, but he did kind of grind that out. And then at the end of last season, he ran at Fairy House in the 2.5 mile Grade 2 there. And again, he ground it out to win. he even idled a little bit towards the line. So I thought that he's definitely worth a try at 3 miles. Gordon's been very keen to try him at 3 miles this season. He needs to go right-handed is what the line has always been. He definitely jumps better right-handed anyway. So that's obviously a big bonus. And the biggest thing of all is Jack Kennedy has chosen to ride, which, I mean, if that's not a vote of confidence, I don't know what is.
Yeah, agree with that. I think, yeah, the big question is, as you say, if he stays, but he's so classy, isn't he? And actually, the last two seasons as well, he's won really well or won on his return. So we know that
Yeah.
he goes well fresh too. Dan, over to you. And the horse that I'm kind of interested in running a good race here at a price is Affordale Fury. I mean, he's had real problems with getting to the track, and we've only seen him 4 times over fences. But I thought on that return behind Western Fold, he would have 100% would have needed the run, but he ran really well. I thought to be second, and that should have put him spot on, back up in trip. I think if the rain comes, you can give him a shout for sure.
I think you're on handicap watch for him, aren't you? With like a few of these, I'd say you're looking at sort of your 3 mile handicap chases in the depths of winter would be if they can keep him sound, they can get a few runs into him, maybe even drop him a pound or something in the high 140s. That would be the ideal scenario. We haven't seen the best of him yet. Obviously, he's clearly had his issues, and there's a few in there that would be similar. I guess Stellar Story. We're looking to figure out where he fits into this picture in terms of staying chasers. You mentioned Western Fold earlier. It's interesting that every jockey's abandoned Western Fold because Danny Gilligan, who's been riding him, has chosen Stellar Story, and Jack Kennedy was immediately jocked up on Founder 50. So maybe that's ground related because we better touch on that. Really, it's currently good to yielding, but they're looking between sort of 21 to 24 mils before racing. So obviously that's really going to soften it up quite significantly, which you imagine will inconvenience him and be the beneficiary of Spallan's Tower, who undoubtedly is the horse in here with the most upside. If we're looking at sort of grade potential down the line, you just don't know where he's going to really turn up, do you? Because they seem to not know themselves. They've talked about basically, there was an article I think in the Racing Post the other day about a target decided, and I couldn't find a single word that said anywhere about where a target was decided. Like, I don't think they actually know where they're going to end up running this year, and they may be somewhat beholden to the various JP factors. So, not a betting race for me. A race I'll watch with intrigue to see how Splan's Tower shapes and where he potentially might fit in, and with handicaps in mind for the likes of an Affordale Fury and a Stellar Story.
Okay, good stuff. That is the Grey One Down Royal. Anything else for the weekend then, boys? Dan, come straight back to you. Any other bets for Ascot, Wetherby Down Royal, or even Air?
Yeah, a couple at Wetherby. I want to flag. So the 115 is a 2.5 mile handicap chase. A horse in here called Strong Foundations for Sam Drinkwater will make his chasing debut. You did finish second in the Irish point to point, and while we have to be cautious with Irish point to point form, it does read pretty well. Like he was buying Down Mexico Way, who was rated 134. Back in third was Al Gasparo, rated 139. And back in fourth was Johnny Jump Up, rated 128. This horse is off rated 105 going into his chase debut. And he's been very highly tried. Like you look at some of the places he's been running, he's had 3 starts at Cheltenham. And he actually ran really well in a bumper behind the Kemble Brewery, went fresh a couple of seasons ago. And he ran, I thought, fine in a couple of spring handicaps last season where, to me, still looking quite raw. He hasn't fully developed yet, but he has some strong hurdles formed to his name. He beat Don Virginia in his maiden hurdle and Sunray Shadow were 127, 118. So only off 105 here. He can't be a strong bet because it's his chase debut and there are obviously some unknowns there, but he could have a lot more to offer now over fences off that kind of handicap mark. So I'll be keeping an eye on him. And then the 330 is the first of my handicappers to follow running after Maz Shantu got Jake's off to a great start last weekend. I'm hoping Don't Mind If I Do can do likewise with me. Obviously, for the full detailed explanation on why I like the horse, check out the Handicappers to Follow series. We've still only had one runner from it, but this looks like a really good opportunity for him, especially with Go Dante being declared last minute, so just meaning he doesn't have to carry 12 stone. 2 miles, good ground was basically what I was asking for when I was looking for where he could turn up. He's got all of that. They didn't handle heavy ground when last seen, but look at the bumper form he has. They've minded him. They've given him plenty of time. He should have a lot more to offer for Mark 120. And I've just seen his opening price is around 4-1, which I think is very generous.
Yeah, keep an eye on all those, Dan. Yeah, good stuff. Excellent work. I've only got one that I'm quite keen on this weekend, apart from the ones that we've already discussed. That is Cocktail Divan. I couldn't see him beating Romeo Coolio in that beginner's chase. I mean, he's built like a chaser. They bought him to go chasing. He did pretty well over hurdles. He won his maiden, then he went and finished fourth at Aintree. But I think we're going to see the best of him over fences. And if the ground stays on the quicker side, then he'll love that. So I can see him putting up on first season start to Romeo Coolio for sure. And fingers crossed he schooled well. But I mean, they usually jump pretty well from the Henry de Bromhead team, particularly given the fact they bought him to be a chaser. So I'm looking to Cocktail Divan around about 5-2, 3-1 to maybe get the better of Romeo Coolio. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, one that's not, I can assume probably won't be a bet, but one just to keep an eye on and have a watch is Monge 2 goes in the 1150 at Down Royal, making her debut in the Gordon Elliott Rob Cool colours. Obviously, that's the juvenile hurdle that kicks off the card that he's won with plenty of good horses down the years, Wood Who, the likes of those. So yeah, if she obviously she's running, making a debut, it'd be very interesting to see how she shapes. She's a potential Triumph hurdle horse at this very early stage. But yeah, we'll see how she gets on. There's two other winners in the race, so it's actually a pretty decent starting point. It should be quite informative. But the main bet on the day is going to be, obviously, as Dan's already mentioned. Don't mind if I do. I think, I don't really need to go over the case again. We've already mentioned it twice now, but he's got outstanding claims in that, and 4-1 or 9-2, whatever the price Dan just said as the opening price is very, very generous. So don't mind if I do in the handicap hurdle, Wetherby, definitely.
Love it. Do you know, I love it when you guys agree on something. It's like it's like everything aligns. It just feels right. And we haven't had one for a little bit, so that's good to hear, or at least when I've been on the show anyway. Good stuff, guys. Really enjoyed that. Looking forward to all the action this weekend. We've plumbed towards the depths of winter, and we've got 11:50 start at Down Royal. But that is the way it goes. Please do remember to like and subscribe to us. As I said, 200 likes would be a great goal to reach, and do comment below with your best bet, your biggest fancy of the weekend. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And next week it's going to be the Badger Beers at Wincanton. That's always exciting. 3-mile extended 3-mile handicap chase. Look forward to that next week. But enjoy all the action this weekend. There's lots of it, and hopefully we've got some winners for you. See you soon.